Hello and welcome to Mia the Passion Muse Show. I'm Mia Sines-Whitmore, your host, and right here with me is Daniel Hill. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Mia.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm lovely and wonderful. How are you?
Fantastic. Good.
Good.
Really. Nice and warm. It's quite cold here in England.
Is it?
What temperature is it there in Florida?
Well, it's probably about close to 80, I think.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
But indoors it's very nice because I find that Florida is muggy and I'm used to Los Angeles dry heat. So, well, I'm very excited to have you on air with us because would you identify yourself as an awakening coach? Tell us a bit about your background.
My background is I studied counseling years ago and felt that really wasn't powerful enough, personally, as well as it just didn't resonate with me in order to be able to create enough change. That's not to say that I don't use some of the skills within counseling to facilitate change within people, but I was drawn to other speakers and modalities that were able to change people's unconscious beliefs. And I had a lot of limiting beliefs, which resulted in health problems, depression, struggling to integrate anything into my life that made sense, and I was lost, really. So I don't know whether I found this. I think it found me. And it's been a journey ever since, and it continues to be a journey.
Right. And it goes so perfectly well with our title of the show, which is Love versus Ego, because life is a beautiful journey, and if we claim it and appreciate it and love it just for that, we find the amazing treasures along the way. So wonderful. So I'm really excited to get into the topic of love versus ego, because we all want to love, and we all don't understand the true facets of exactly what ego is. It's simplistic, but it's also extremely tricky and in depth, where someone may say to you, well, you're talking from your ego, and you're saying, well, no, I'm not. So let's talk about that.
Okay. I would simplify ego as anything that has an agenda behind it. Mm-hmm. And that is the manifestation of your want would equal a sense of either security, love, or a sense of control. And they also say of ego many things, but one of the ones which I like is everything good is outside. So it's really important for us to reflect back to ourselves and understand that whatever that want is, or that action that we are taking, or the engagement with someone else, whatever it is that we're caught up in, you can identify whether that's ego or its essence, love, spirit, by self-reflection and understanding whether there is an agenda behind it, or whether you are just doing it for the sake of being a vehicle of love, as opposed to a human being that wants to get something in order to, when it gets something, then it can be. It doesn't have an agenda. It has no destination. It has no outcome that it particularly is attached to.
It is very, very tricky, because people know me as the Passion Muse, and they also know me, and I'm getting a little personal here, but they know me as the Love Guru. In Santa Monica, I've been called that. Hey, I've been reading your stuff, you're the Love Guru. And which makes me giggle, because I feel like some kind of a chic hippie or something, you know. But the point is I do love so much and want to be loving, and well, not want to be, because I am. But I find at times when I'm frustrated, say, in a relationship, I guess ego takes over. And so I've been battling with that the last several months. Am I coming unconditionally? Am I coming from ego? So it's so much more complicated in respect than just the average. People also have a little acronym for it, edging God out, which I don't really like. I love yours better because the other is true, but it's so overused, just like the fear one. You know, everybody has their little cliche things that they like to throw out. But truly, if we instead of throwing it out, if we feel it from within, I think that that's where we can separate and divide or look at in our hands whether it's love-based or ego-based. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And it's always coming from within.
Right.
We are that underneath all of motivation or conditioning, traumas, fears, yes, and personal relationships of all kinds will test that. And we only can be our own judge. Plenty of people may like to judge us along the way, but ultimately it's only us who we can judge ourselves. And when we can sit with ourselves at the end of the day, beginning of the day, the start of the day, any time during the day, or become aware of, am I unstill? And if I'm unstill, what is the agenda behind this? What am I trying to get here? What is there to be gained? People will meditate and give up their entire lives to interrupt that pattern. But I think coming to your heart, which is generally the thing that we associate to all love, I think that our hearts have the answer. So I came into coaching through a sense of love. There are trials and tribulations with being a coach. It's really not the easiest job in the world sometimes, but my heart's in it, and I totally and utterly love facilitating shifts within people, and I see transformation. And sometimes I will see clients. I mean, I've got a client who's coming to see me who's had 4 years of psychotherapy, and I ask them to write me a piece list before they come and see me, because then we've got an idea of what we're going to work with, and how much unstillness is inside of her, and there's an abundance, and consciously talking about it hasn't helped her. That's her interpretation, and I respect counseling and psychotherapy. I think everything has its place, but I probably could have done quite well as a counselor and psychotherapist if I ventured further into that. But my heart wasn't in it. And my heart wasn't into listening to people talk about their issues over and over and over and over again, almost re-traumatizing themselves.
Exactly.
As opposed to guiding them out of it and facilitating the shift from ego to essence, who they are. And a lot of people don't have any idea what that is. I certainly didn't before I started this journey. And you don't even have to have that awareness. It can just be another way of gaining a deeper sense of peace. And that agenda of wanting to get to be, you can continue, but I call it heading east looking for a sunset. You can have the greatest will in the world, and you can keep going east and going, I'm gonna find my sunset. But oh no, I keep finding a sunrise every day. But I'm gonna keep confident, and I'm gonna, hold some new agey belief system, and sort of, if I really believe the sunset, it's gonna rise. It's gonna be there. Sorry, it's gonna descend in the east.
Right.
It will, because I'll give it there. But there's a fundamental law of the universe. Well, certainly the law of Earth, the sun rises in the east, and it sets in the west. And it's the same as there is a fundamental law of the universe of what you put out is what you get back. And the ego is always unstill and looking for something outside of itself. And if you're continually looking outside of yourself, you're constantly putting out lack. And if you put out lack, that's what you will get back. And that is just, it becomes almost common sense after a while. So the only person you can change, even though there might be chaos around in your world, and you might be in a relationship and I'm going to be coming from unconditional love right now, and I'm really going into unconditional love. And then ego comes in and sort of, I feel hurt, I feel not listened to, I feel this, I feel that, and the other. We have to keep coming back to ourselves and really ask like a simple question as what would love do now? Or find somebody who you believe is to be quite awakened or advanced or in spirituality in some way, and ask yourself the question, what would they do? What would Yoda do next?
I love how you brought up the difference between the type of coaching that you do, I do, others do, compared to psychology and things like that. I believe that they work, except for you really have to have a spiritually based psychotherapist in order to get into the next level above. I work with clients, I'm sure you do the same thing. I'll tell them, if you tell me one more time I need to fix you, we're not working together, because I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to help show you, guide you the way, but I can't fix you. There's nothing wrong with you. So it's very, very interesting. I think the approach that we are doing. I also have people say, so you're New Age, and I say, there's nothing new about what I am. I don't know what New Age is, because it's truly the fundamentals of creation throughout time, if we wanted to accept it as that. And so there's nothing new about it, and it's truly beautiful. Truly, truly beautiful.
But don't you find that the clients, being that what you put out is what you get back, and everything really is in its own time and place, so the clients will just naturally be attracted to you. There's not a great deal of pushing, or it's all about vibration. So if you've come into that place, an awareness or your heart that this is the work that you're meant to be doing, the right clients at the right time will show up in the right place,
right
way.
And also other clients will show up and they're just not a fit right now, but it opens their horizon to what the possibilities that they can commit to for themselves. And that's the beauty of it. You don't turn anyone away when you're talking with them. You may not take them on as a client, just as they may not want to take you on as a coach. So it's a beautiful mix, because we're not meant to serve everyone. We all are so uniquely beautiful that the right people, as you said, do come into us. And when we can help, when we work with them and we see the change and the growth, isn't that the most magnificent feeling?
Yes. I've often had tears at the end of the day sometimes, and think, I've helped somebody there where they've had years of suffering, or they've had a significant breakthrough. And and that makes my heart really expand, and really opens my essence up, that I've been just a vehicle for that shift and that transformation. And often I keep in contact with a lot of my clients, and they'll send me emails 6 months on telling me great things that have happened, and I do get a lot of referrals as well, which is about heart again. Their heart is in it, and
exactly.
They'll see someone else suffering, and look, you've got to go and see this guy. Oh well, what does he do? What does he do? Well, specifically, what is he going to be doing?
Right.
And I wouldn't say that I was an awakening coach necessarily. I would just say I'm a coach. I'm also a hypnotherapist. I'm awake to something else other than my personality, other than Daniel Hill, who talks here and is male, and there's something else that I got in contact with. Right. But there are also, I think Carl Jung was particularly spiritual, and I believe he was a humanistic counselor. think I'd know more.
Yes.
But there was, he was, and there are other people as well. There's a book that came up on a Facebook post recently, and it's called In Case of Spiritual Emergency, and it's really that when people are having quite a lot of psychological problems, sometimes it really is an awakening of a spiritual self, that the ego's very lost and struggling to find sense in the world, rather like Neo in the Matrix. Life's just not quite right. It's just not really working anymore, and there becomes a search for peace and an understanding of how reality truly is, and how they can engage in reality in a more purposeful and loving and peaceful way, so they can get that back from reality.
How would you explain, if someone asked you, I'll ask you.
Okay.
The human ego, period, there are benefits, there are some aspects that are beneficial.
Uh-huh.
How would you explain that to somebody seeking and searching and trying to separate the two? I really believe that this is the time in our history where it's groundbreaking between the separation of the divine and the ego part of us.
I'm not entirely sure how to answer that.
Give me your heart, baby.
People generally never usually ask me that. As a client, people won't ask me that. Redefine that in a really simple way.
All right.
If you can.
Yes.
For me again, if you don't mind.
All right. As we grow in our spirituality and our growth, and as we evolve, people tend to struggle with the concept of ego. They want to be ego-free, but yet we are spirit in a human body. Okay. And so we imbued both of them, whether we like it or not. We can shift away from ego to grace and to the divine, but there's still some aspects of it. If you can share more positive aspects of the ego, we all know that when we're throwing a complete fit and we're unloving and we're just having a fit and everything has to be about us, that's total ego. That is not beneficial in grace. That is not loving. That is not giving. And that is not following the divine.
The ego has, on some level, helped humanity survive to get to this place. It is primarily concerned with I. Not we, it's I. And a spiritual shift would be going more to we. Now, the I is concerned with the self, and that is, if you break down the Enneagram, because I do Enneagram mentoring as well, and the Enneagram breaks down the ego into the three concepts or parts, which are love and approval, the seeking of love and approval, the seeking of security, and the seeking of control. So years ago, when we were even Neanderthal, if we were cast out from our pack, our society, and weren't approved on anymore, we would die.
Right.
It's a fundamental answer. Quite, it's. There's no beating around the bush. You would die. You had to be part of the pack, of the group, and you had to be approved of. And if you would either die quickly or you die slowly. And this happens with animals as well. So I think even lions, there's another more male, if it's a male, and there's a more dominant male, and he ousts the older lion out, the older lion has to put his tail between his legs and he has to go off, and he'll go off to die. So you have that. Security. With the security types, there's always a tendency to either have competency avoid worst case scenarios so that you're feeling safe and you're analyzing everything and making sure that, we've got all the I's dotted and the T's crossed and we're all safe, because we were invaded constantly from nations and even counties and states in America, and you got Native American Indians who happily live in there for how many tens of thousands of years, and then suddenly, these white people suddenly come along with these guns and take over.
Right.
So, and then you've got control. So, where would we be if we had no control or have no wish to have control? So it's also important not to go in, I want to get rid of the ego, and I do meet people sort of not necessarily in my coaching. I see a lot of it on the YouTube with people following spiritual teachers, and people say, so did his ego just die? And even someone like Eckhart Tolle will say that his ego now is 20 to 30% in the background. It's 70 or 80%. So there's still a 2 or 3 buzzing around, or 2 or 3 out of 10 buzzing around in the background. But he's just got more awareness of his essence, spiritual stuff, and that you end up paying more attention to that, and eventually begin to understand that listening to that more than the ego that has an agenda will benefit you so much more than the pain that you will receive by following an egoic, never-ending wanting to get to be, the postponing of happiness.
Right.
It's just not there. And it's really from millennia of conditioning, trauma, the belief that we are separate, that we aren't part of oneness, we're not part of a whole, and we've come through various dimensions and ages, and there is the awareness by certain people saying that this is a new age, whether it is, whether it isn't. I certainly believe it is, but who cares? We're just where we are. And I think humanity is waking up and becoming more unified. I was in Mexico recently, and I was reading up on the Mayans, and the one of the prophecies that they had was the unity of humankind. And it said, as the things of the world begin to break down, the things of the spirit begin to gather us together. And it's our returning to nature and our fundamental essence which will unite us all. I mean, a little simple example is the miners in Chile. Suddenly the whole world is concerned about these miners in Chile. I mean, why would you be bothered about that particularly? But no, we feel it. Why? Because we feel it from our hearts. We have telethons and all different types of things that are happening, and it's more of a global village now than it ever has been.
Absolutely.
7 billion people, that we begin to care more. And the more that we begin to realize that our neighbors, like, Russia aren't going to bomb the hell out of us. Like when I was growing up, I was 14 years old thinking, I hope Gorbachev doesn't press the button, when he goes to talk with Reagan, at Reykjavik, which it was, I think it was in 1988. I hope they create some kind of peace treaty. Otherwise, I'm never going to see them, 1990s. And now we have it with either the Middle East or North Korea. And it's really understanding that most people who live on this planet are very governed by what they're told by mass media, and to see through all of that conditioning, all of that fear, that there's many people who profit in fear. And we ultimately can come home to understanding that it's all about love. There's nothing else important other than love. If you had a week left to live and you were well up to your last day, what would you do? would you be concerned with an agenda of what you needed to do, or would you be tidying up affairs and making peace with people that maybe you had been having problems with throughout your life and various challenges, and doing what you love? Would you waste time going, oh, well, I really wonder what North Korea's going to be doing, or what? You're not going to be bothered about that. You've got 7 days left. And I saw this shift in my father, who died of terminal cancer, and that really was the greatest inheritance that I was ever left, because I wasn't left anything financial. So it was this awareness of being present, which a lot of the spiritual teachings simply say, come home to essence and presence. And if you do, you interrupt the ego, because the ego's agenda for love and approval, security and control, it's always about the next moment, not the present moment, the next moment.
That's beautiful.
And we might well be in a relationship, feel that we're not getting enough attention for whatever reason, and that might be the ego that speaks up. But we keep having to come home to ourselves, and the more that we take responsibility for the action that has occurred in our reality with that other person, we can change our vibration from that. And if you come from love, and really are love, and egoless love, so unconditional love, essence, what you put out is what you get back, so it will be reflected back.
It's beautiful. So you also spoke briefly of writing, and most of us do have books out. Do you have something you'd like to share with us?
Well, I'm writing all the time. I mean, I write for my blog, and I write. I've got a number of books on the go, and I'm not going to say anything. And in the understanding that if you do start talking about it enough, almost the unconscious believes that it's already manifested, it's already there, which it has in my own reality, but it hasn't quite yet physically. So, but it's much along the lines of this subject. And,
wonderful. It's along the Daniel Hill line. I love that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's part of my journey for that to manifest.
Yeah.
Been pregnant with it for far too long. It needs to pop out.
So were you raised in a spiritual zone, or were you in a religious? Like all of us, we were religious and then left those four walls. I was brought
up Anglican Christian with my parents. You know, I went to Sunday school for a little bit, and I think we always had a Bible at home, but we weren't. I think my parents were sort of. I remember going into hospital once, and my mum put on the religion Church of England, and they went, "What's that?" And she said, "Well, that's what we are. Are we? I didn't know that." But I was, when I was young, much younger. I used to. I think I used to talk to God of what God was, but my total concept of what God is now is not a God of that belongs to any religion. And I'd always almost say I speak to the universe, because I much prefer using the word universe or life or even love as opposed to the word God.
Well, those are beautiful synonyms.
Right. God gets us into a lot of problems when we start saying what God wants, and but if we start saying what the universe is telling me that that I should take this action. Love is telling me I should take this action. Life is telling me I should take this action. There's a difference in saying God is telling me I need to take this action. Now, if that works for you, whatever. Everything's in its own time and place. But I started to understand. This is my own awareness. That God didn't have an ego. God didn't have an agenda. In the same way as that life didn't have an agenda, really. It was just unfolding. It was like a constant unfolding of consciousness. And that I was the only one truly in charge of my reality. This is the only part of the universe that I have control over. This thing, this entity, this thing here. And I have been given that, and it's for me to look after that, and for me to use that in the best way possible. But I believe that life, the universe, all that is, has purposefully given me these tools, this awareness, this knowledge, and I'm using that in the best way possible. And I think that helping people overcome their limitations and their ego tendencies will create a better world and will create more, without being speaking in a place where it becomes I'm talking about a utopia. But if more people overcame their ego and they came out of fear and into love, because that's the opposite tendency, you would have a better world. Look how much money would be saved in defense. And people, we know that a great deal of illness, disease, which is unease, how much money is made by the pharmaceutical industry. So
right.
you've got savings everywhere. If Tesla hadn't been prohibited from making free energy, we'd all be, driving cars on water, and we wouldn't be paying gas and electric and goodness knows what. And that's all ego. That's all part of,
Right.
but it's part of our evolution. And it's only about coming home to your personal responsibility of, am I going to continue to carry on in this won't get the agenda egoic life, or am I going to truly get in touch with why I'm really here and why I what's this all about?
Right.
Why am I here? Do I have purpose? And yes, I believe you do, and I believe that is to create a better world.
That's beautiful. And I love that, because if we do come from love, then we are creating a better place.
Absolutely. You can't not. Yeah, what you put out is what you get back. And if you create that change, I don't know what, I think it's the 1% square root of the population to create change. And also what I found is that a lot of people who come to an awakening that, oh my goodness, I've been trapped in this egoic agenda and this hypnosis of fear, and really it's all about love, it's all about evolving and everything, and then what can happen is that they come to an awakening, and then they paradoxically go into ego about other people's ego. So it will be, well, we've got to stop this. We've got to stop that. We've got to stop together, and we need to create a better world, because, and while they're doing it, they're creating anger within themselves and actually adding fear to the fear already. And I don't necessarily believe in that you just sit there and meditate and be with it all. If that's what your heart says that you should do, then do so. But whatever action that you're taking, do it with love and compassion, and do it with peace, and do it with the awareness of that the outcome that you wish to experience has already occurred. So if you are wishing for all human beings to transcend and come to a sense of awakening, do it from that place as if it's already happened.
That's
because
beautiful.
if you do, you are going to be putting out so much less fear into the world. You can still create change from love and from peace. And many of the leaders and awakened teachers and facilitators of all different types of movements have done that, whether it's Gandhi or is it Aung San Lee in geography's beyond me. Right, I know where it is.
In Asia?
Pardon? In Asia.
In Asia.
It's not Korea.
We'll give it a bigger space. In Asia.
Yeah, I can't remember. Forgive me, but people
That's
will know
all right.
what I'm talking about. And she's created Burma, and she's created change in there, not through peace
Yeah.
and love.
And understanding what it is, not just manifesting or not just listening and spitting back out to the world exactly what you hear, but when you take it in and understand it and then share it with the world, it becomes you, it becomes real, it becomes true. There are so many people who just hear the message and talk like puppets. And when you actually embrace the concept that this is if you love it and you embrace it, you don't just listen to it a million times to mimic someone else. You have to let it go through your heart and out that way. That's just a message that's extremely important. And we're out of time, but I would love to have you back to talk about NLP.
I'd love to come back.
And I also believe that we can pick up from where we're talking about our true intention of creating completeness within ourselves so that we can actually be who we are, love, and not just spouting words from someone else. So thank you, Daniel Hill, for joining us from the UK and the USA together. We brought to you this show, and we will get together again and do this again. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mia.
We'll see you next time. Bye.